Okay.
Well, Brad Barber for me had been the face of Rotary for a long time. I don't think he knows this, but it's because I mean, I've known him for a long time. My wife actually worked for him, while we were engaged. He's just kind of been one of those guys around my little town that you just recognize, and a lot because of that epic mustache that if he ever got rid of, no one would know who he was at all. So, but he would just always post on Facebook the wonderful things that our local club was doing. And then one thing was that I always look forward to were the reports of the trips that they take to Mexico to do stuff. And if I didn't work down in Salt Lake and couldn't make meetings, I would have, tried to join the club a long time ago. But I kind of learned more about Rotary than just the logo by watching, Brad's feed. And plus I've had interactions with him. He had been my bishop in our local congregation for some time. Just a wonderful man. But like I said, for me, it's kind of my introduction to what the good works that Rotary does do. So I'm happy that he's here to kind of explain a little bit of that past. And we have his bio. He's done a lot. He's been club president. He's been what is it? Your assistant governor or something, coming on to be lieutenant governor.
Lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
So yes, in our district.
But been doing it for a long time, coming up close to 30 years now. So and it's hard to say that something in the mid 90s is 30 years. That's where we are. So anyway, but I'll turn it over to Brad. Happy you're here. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks, Jared. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've got a little presentation that I'll bring up in a second. I'm just going to say a couple of things. I was interested in, John, your comment to my oldest granddaughter is actually studying right now to be a speech pathologist. So that was quite an interesting connection there. And then when Jared first asked me to speak and told me he was part of an E-Club that was out of Carolina, I thought, well, Jared, there's an E-Club in Utah. And then as I've heard you talk and realize what the connection here with you folks is, I know Jared is a scouter through and through and has been for a long time. And so that suddenly made sense to me. And I figured that out. But I've been involved in Rotary. I actually joined Rotary for the first time in 1984 when I was just a child. And I had an opportunity to be with our club. I was a secretary of the club for a while, and then my work changed and I was unable to stay with Rotary from about 91 through 96. And then starting in 1996, I was able to join again. I've been involved in our club ever since. I've served as the president of our club, as well as an assistant governor, and worked very closely with our district. But the project that I wanted to talk about tonight is one that my wife and I got involved in back in 2011. And it's, while it has had, specific support from our local club, it's actually a project that's been handled by clubs throughout our district. And we heard about the project initially back in 2011. And my wife and I jumped right on board at that time. And then from 2014 through 2019, she and I actually chaired this particular project and were in charge of all of the particulars of how it all transpired. And then obviously following 2019, this year, 2023 will be the first time post-COVID that the project will start back up again. So let me just, if I can share here a second, I will bring up. Okay, if you can see that, okay. So this is my wife Annette and myself in a little place called Puerto Peñasco, Mexico. About 22 years ago, these two gentlemen, Jared Parker and Ralph Pugh. Jared is a contractor in Salt Lake City, does high-end remodels and construction. And Jared is did I say that right? Yeah. Jared is a real estate attorney in Phoenix. And the two of them have been friends for years, and they actually owned a condominium in Puerto Peñasco and would go down and visit there regularly. And that's kind of how this whole thing started. For those of you that don't have a Spanish background, Peñasco, I always have to say Peñasco and make sure people understand how to pronounce it, because people are very quick and ready to say Penasco, and that grates with me because of my Spanish speaking abilities. But anyway, Puerto Peñasco is located, as you can see, just it's about a 4-hour trip out of Phoenix, just an hour across the border, right up on the north end of the Sea of Cortez. It's a tourist destination for hundreds of folks. They have their condominiums down there. One whole end of town is high-rise condos and whatnot, but the city itself is very much Mexico, very poor, and right now, even with all of the focus on tourism, they still depend mostly on fishing from the Sea of Cortez as their income. But anyway, Jared and Ralph were enjoying a view of the ocean from their seaside condominium. They were discussing the need to do more than just come down and enjoy the beauty of the area. In spite of the tourist areas, there's still a lot of poverty in the area. And through a series of events and contacts, including a church group that was building small rudimentary houses in the poorer parts of town, they determined they could figure out a way to make that, or to do the same thing. And so they soon formed a nonprofit foundation called Families Helping Families. And with their families and other friends, they were soon building houses in the area every Christmas. They would do that for Christmas rather than spending extra money on each other frivolously. And eventually others heard about what they were doing, and the size of their group started to grow on a regular basis. Well, around that time, Mike Wells, who was a past district governor in Utah, heard about the trip and about what they were doing down there. And Mike is what I would refer to as a visionary. He can see things that most can't, and he could see how important this opportunity could be for young people to help them understand and learn more about being humanitarians throughout the world. So in 2010, he took a group of 16 interactors from Tooele to Puerto Peñasco to help build a house with Families Helping Families. And that was the beginning of what we now call the Mexico Project. So in 2011, he came and presented this opportunity, he and Jared Parker, to our Rotary Club. And as we were sitting there and they were telling it, I turned to my wife and I said, honey, we're going. And she said, yeah, I know. And that kind of got us hooked. The project gives interactors the opportunity to raise their own funds to pay for their expenses and to purchase the building materials and supplies needed to build and furnish the houses. Mike shared the following statement. He says, it's a wonderful program. It changes lives in a very positive way. Young people learn the life lesson of working hard for something they desire, and then learn again when they go into a country with so little, when they come from a country that has so much. Another past district governor here in Utah, Penny Atkinson, who has also participated in the project since 2011, said, it's simply amazing how these trips transform often self-centered teenagers into outward focused humanitarians. And while we do go down there with the express purpose of building houses, we are very, very much focused on what it does for these young people and change that it makes in their lives. So the project consists of transporting the youth and chaperones to Puerto Peñasco, housing them, feeding them, working with them to build the houses, and then we return them to their homes, all in the course of a week. Past groups have also constructed a new wing on a local medical facility and expanded a home for disabled to provide a viable location for them to be self-sufficient, and many other humanitarian projects in the area. Also included in the trip is time spent at a local elementary school, assisting in repair and upkeep projects, engaging in a cultural exchange of music and dance, and providing hygiene kits and other assistance in the outmost parts of the town where the poorest of the poor reside. Building a house is not an easy task, but building a house in less than a week using a group of teenagers, we've been told was probably impossible. But we believe in these young people, and they have made this project totally happen. And as I said, while the main focus is the project, it's designed to strengthen youth and create lifetime humanitarians. Every year we expose these kids to circumstances and challenges that exist throughout the world. The young people see poverty, real poverty. You'll forgive me, I never give this presentation that I don't get a little emotional, because it is an amazing opportunity, and it is amazing the things that we get involved in. Some of them see this poverty for the first time in their lives, and most come back forever altered and changed with a new perspective of life outside their limited life experience. I remember very specifically one young girl early in our trips. During the day, one day, she was sitting around to the side of the house we were working on, sitting on a pile of cinder blocks, and she was just sobbing. And I thought, oh my word, something's happened. She's gotten hurt. Something's wrong. And as we had the opportunity to talk to her and say, what is it what's the problem? Are you okay? And she says, I just can't believe that I argue with my sister over sharing a bathroom. And so that change was being very evident right off the bat with the young people as they were able to see how people lived in that area. Another young man that came down, and it was pretty obvious right from the beginning that he had an attitude. In fact, when they picked him up at the bus, he was not very kind in the comments that he made to his mother as he was loading his stuff on the bus and headed on his way down. About halfway through the trip, Mike received a phone call from the mother saying, "What have you done to my son?" And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. Explain to me. And she says, he just called me and apologized profusely for the way he's been treating me, and promised me that will change. And so in that regard, some amazing changes for these young people. When Annette and I first became involved with the project, we were often asked by people around us, "You're taking how many teenagers where?" But we've seen the positive changes it makes in their lives and the positive changes in the lives of the families in Puerto Peñasco. And we consider it a great blessing to be involved with the project. While preparations for the project always begin every year right after the completion of the project, the actual week begins bright and early on a Saturday morning as a tour bus travels from one end of Utah to the other throughout the course of the day, picking up participants and transporting them to a hotel in Phoenix, Arizona for that evening. Sunday morning, after a good night's rest and a hearty breakfast, the buses hit the road again for the 3-hour trip to the Mexico border at Lukeville, Arizona, and then another hour into Mexico to Puerto Peñasco. An orientation meeting is held with the group at the gated condominium resort that they'll call home for the next 5 days. We're lucky we get to live in these nice condominiums while we're down there for a week, and then we're out in the outskirts, in the midst of poverty for the week as we build these houses. We end the day with a meal of fried chicken, tortillas, rice, and beans. We hold very strictly to curfew while we're there, and their participants are all in bed by 10 o'clock. Bright and early Monday morning, the group meets for breakfast at the hotel and then departs for the work site, ready to begin the day's labor. At the work site, preparations have already been made and a cement foundation and slab are in place, ready for the transformation into a new house. After about 20 minutes of instruction and training on laying concrete block, the group begins feverishly laying the block and mortar, including placement of electrical conduits. During the construction, the group will work side by side with local families and laborers as they complete the house. Many of these local workers are families putting in labor and time, sweat equity during construction, so they can qualify for a house sometime in the future. The program as it's put together is based loosely on kind of the way Habitat for Humanity works, in that the foundation accepts applications from families and individuals to be able to receive a house, and then they have to put in sweat equity. They have to put in their own time and be able to meet certain criteria to be able to receive a house following that. I was going to say this picture, that's my youngest son with one of the local workers down there. Let's see, at noon each day, there's a local vendor that comes and provides a lunch at the work site, consisting of beef, chicken, or fish tacos, along with salsa and all the fixings. And after a brief lunch break, work continues with the goal of laying a specified row of block, usually early to mid-afternoon. Upon completion of the day's construction goal, everybody's bussed back to the condos where they clean up and enjoy the hotel pools, lounge chairs, and the beach. Each evening, the group is bussed downtown to one of the many local restaurants where they'll experience a variety of local dishes in a variety of atmospheres, including open-air thatched roof restaurants, large taco stands with amazing tacos, and a fancy sit-down Mexican restaurant with all the variety of Mexican favorites. Tuesday and Wednesday are similar days as the group continues laying concrete block, framing the roof and interior walls, and constructing the covered front porch of the house, ending each day with relaxation and a fantastic meal. Opportunities also provided during the week for souvenir shopping, as well as the cultural exchange at the local Rotary school. The school was originally built by the local Puerto Peñasco Rotary Club before the club dissolved a number of years ago. Since we began our project, we've helped initiate the club again, and it is now it's now a strong functioning Rotary Club once again in Puerto Peñasco. Thursday, the finishing touches are made on the house, and it is cleaned and prepped for local laborers who will come after the group is gone and complete the electrical, plumbing, windows, and paint. Not long after, the house will be ready to become someone's home. Thursday night, the group participates in a big fiesta at a local hotel on the beach with a full dinner buffet, mariachi music, and a beautiful sunset to cap the evening. Friday morning, the group dresses in their special Rotary blue shirts for individual and group pictures at the house site. And immediately following these photos, they participate in giving away a house completed by another group, but cleaned, decorated, and prepared by our group. As part of the participation in the project, we solicit donations of supplies, furniture, and personal items for the receiving family. This is just pictures of interior of one of the homes. It's a very touching and special opportunity to see the joy on a family's face as they receive a home that they worked for and waited for some time. Many tears are shed, and it's an emotional moment to see the joy of the week's labors will bring to a family in the days ahead. That afternoon, everyone is transported down to the wharf for a few hours of shopping and lunch at one of the local restaurants. And around 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, the group climbs back on the bus and begins the long trip back to Utah. The bus travels through the night to deliver the exhausted participants to their respective drop-off locations throughout the day on Saturday. Year after year, we have multiple comments and reviews talking about the great opportunity the project has been. Many of our participants have made the trip more than once, though the majority are there always for the first time. From 2011 through 2019, we were able to take over 1,100 youth on the project and build over 15 houses in Puerto Peñasco, along with the other projects in the local community. So I'll finish with this quote from Muhammad Ali. He says, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth." The Rotary motto of service above self is followed very heartily on this project, and it's an opportunity to change youth and uplift people in need, one house at a time. If you're interested in learning more about the project and following what's going on, we do have a page that has even more detail than I've put in here under utahrotaryyouth.org/Mexico. And we have a Facebook page that you can look up under the Mexico Project Utah Rotary Interact. And then if any of you have other questions or are interested, there's contact information for my wife and I. With that, that's kind of what I have. If there are questions, I'd be happy to answer those and let you know anything else that I might not have covered.
I just want to make a comment, Brad. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And I can tell you, both of my sons went on mission trips to Mexico when they were younger, and they definitely come back with a different viewpoint,
Okay,
having walked in someone else's shoes.
Okay.
So thank you.
There you go. Sorry, I lost my audio for a minute there. I missed what you said, Jeff. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's very humbling, isn't it?
It
I
is.
say both of my sons went down to mission trips in Mexico and witnessed something similar and came back very different young men and for the better. So thank you for what you're doing. It's absolutely critical.
Yep, we've enjoyed it.
Oh, so Brad, you said that you furnish and do the finishing parts of a home that was done by another group. So are there other like Rotary and Interact groups that do this at other times during their year, or they're just like other things like Jeff said, like church mission trips and stuff like that they work in connection with?
This particular organization, the Families Helping Families organization, as I said, they still go down as families every year at Christmas time, and they'll build 2 or 3 houses every year around that time. Our local Utah Rotary group goes down. There are no other Rotary groups that are affiliated with this particular group. However, I'm trying to think, probably back about 2016, 2017, there's a big company here in Utah called Life Vantage, who is one of the big sponsors of the Real Salt Lake soccer team. And Life Vantage, their employees all got together as a group and have gone down each year for the last 4 or 5 years and have built 4 and 5 houses a year as well. And so as the group comes down and spends that week building the cinder block frame and the roof, then they have local individuals down there that are actually they pay to come in and do all of the stuff you can't teach a teenager to do in 20 minutes, and all the plumbing and the electrical and those types of things. And so they get all the houses that have been built prepped and ready. And then, while we're down there, we may go paint a couple of those houses that have been worked on earlier, and then prepare and clean one to be able to give away at the time we're there. So, as far as fundraising, initially, Mike Wells, when he put the project together, he is from Southern California, and he had some contacts down there and actually put together an opportunity for anybody who was interested to sell cases of oranges. And he would arrange to have very high-end, real nice quality oranges shipped from Southern California up to Utah. We would go out and pre-sell those obviously at a profit, with the intent of helping to raise money to be able to make the project work for each individual youth. Up here in the Brigham City area, we would usually order in between 100 and 150 cases of these oranges every year, depending upon how many kids from the local area were going. And that was one of the main fundraisers that a lot of the youth used to be able to, to bring in some extra money to be able to make it happen. When the project started in 2011, the cost was $800 a person total. That was transportation, food, housing, and purchasing of materials. Obviously, prices have not stayed similar. This year, the price per person is $2,000. But again, that covers all of the expenses as well as purchases all of the materials to build the house, the block, the roofing, all of that other materials is all paid for as part of that $2,000 that each youth submits. And the positive thing about it is that those that go because they want to. So we don't have a bunch of kids along that have been sent by mommy and daddy to camp for the week. They want to be there. And so it's a positive group. It's an excited group that really are there because they want to be there doing something, and they've put their own money into getting there.
I'm curious, have you had a hard time finding adults and participants for this year's trip?
With having not had the trip happen for the last couple of years, we're in the process right now of registration. Adults is always our biggest problem, getting enough adults to go, because of the fact that we're in a foreign country. We have the condominium resort we go to. There are sizable rooms that will hold anywhere from 6 to 10 individuals, multiple bedrooms type thing. But we don't have any of those rooms that we will allow just youth to be in. There have to be 2 adults in any of those rooms. And so most of the time we tell kids, you know, if you've got a group of you that wants to go, you better talk some parents into coming along, because if we don't have enough adults, we can't take you. So that's the biggest struggle we've had, you know, through the years is enough adult chaperones to be able to take care of things. But we've taken anywhere from our smallest year was I think we had about 74. Our largest year we took 240, which was way too many. But we built 3 houses that year, so you know, it was interesting.
So I thought I heard you say that the oranges was a fundraiser you used to do. How are you doing fundraising now?
We leave that to each of the youth to take care of on their own. When this relationship that Mike had with this company out in Southern California, I don't know whether it just got to be a bigger deal than they wanted to do. He used this also for fundraiser for their local rugby team out in Tooele. And so that kind of all came to an end. With that, my wife and I went to the local grocery store here in town, just a small locally owned grocery store, explained to the produce guy what it is we wanted to do, that I didn't want just the regular oranges that they get in. I wanted the premium, really nice, you know, the kind that break open and peel easily. They're sweet, they're wonderful. And he says, I know exactly what it is you want. And this is how much they're going to cost per case. And so we sat down and figured out what we'd need to be able to charge to be able to make a good enough profit that was worthwhile. And he then took care of getting them in for us. And we were able to accomplish the same thing locally.
I've bought oranges in the past. I didn't know this was what they were for. Just had a kid knocking at my door and saying, I'm going to go do service. I'm like, sure, here we go. But I haven't had them lately. And
Other questions?
So a kid going from our council to Jamboree is $3,200. Yeah, if we have parents that are like balking at $3,200, we can send them to Mexico in Utah. So
well, interestingly, you try and go do an international project anywhere. There's another organization, it's a much larger organization, and they do this kind of stuff all around the world. Their cheapest trip is around $4,500, and you get yourself there. So it's to do it for a couple of grand, while it sounds like, oh my, $2,000, it's that's peanuts compared to what a lot of these places will require to be able to get you to a foreign country to do humanitarian service.
How do you handle the youth protection issues, taking kids into a foreign country?
Well, obviously all of those individuals that go, any adults that go are all, we all screen them. They have background checks done before we can take them. We carry the Rotary sponsored CISI insurance, and they all sign a code of conduct pledge, and we lay out very specifically the things that we expect of them, the things that we expect they will not do, and they all know that they step out of line and they're on a bus home. We're very, they know right up front that we don't mess around. And we've been very fortunate. We've never had any real issues from a injury standpoint. We had a girl back into a piece of rebar one time, and she had to have some stitches. And we had a young man who decided it would be kind of fun to dive into a hot tub, and ended up with stitches on the front of his forehead. But other than that, that's the worst of anything that's ever happened. We have a doctor and a nurse with us while we're there full time. So we have all of that. We've got a large jump kit, and they take care of all of those issues. And the nurse, it's always nice to have a female nurse there, because we usually have a ratio of about 2 to 1 girls to boys in numbers. And so to be able to help deal with female issues and not have to go talk to a man doctor, it's kind of a nice deal. But aside from that, it's from a safety issue, a lot of people will ask, is it safe to go to Mexico? And my response, I've been down there. We usually would go 2 and 3 times a year. Besides just the project, we could go down in preparation, and other times I have driven all around Puerto Peñasco day and night, driven by myself, and have never felt any safety concerns. It is not a huge city, and it's not close to any of the big cities where all the issues are taking place. But in the same vein, we tell people, I can't guarantee anything 100% any more than I can guarantee that across the street something won't happen. And so we let them know up front, yes, there's always the possibility. And if you want me to guarantee 100% that your kid is going to be absolutely safe and nothing will happen, you better keep them home. So it's just life the way it goes.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Doug. Brad, I'll get to the right name eventually. Brad, that was super interesting, and it was great to hear about some other Rotary projects that are going on out in the world.
You're welcome.
So thank you very much.
Pat must have loved to hear Rotaract. I know that's something near and dear to him, so.
Yeah. Interact. Anything to do with kids.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I've been, like I say, I've been Rotarian since '96, the last time around. And in 2009, when I was elected to be president of our club, I went to attend our president-elect training, the PETS training, and my wife came with me and sat through all of the training classes with me. And at the very end, she turned to me and said, "So can I be a Rotarian?" And I was really embarrassed that I hadn't said anything to her prior to that. She joined and immediately started our local Interact club here at the high school, and has been the liaison with the high school club since 2009. So that was a plus, and we enjoy being in Rotary together.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.